When a man like Denzel Washington finally speaks about the people who tested him the most, it isn't bitterness, it's memory, heavy with lessons earned the hard way. Born in 1954, Denzel Washington came of age in an era that valued discipline over hype and craft over noise. So when Denzel, now 71, reflects on the 6 actors he struggled with most, it isn't a list, it's a life measured in principles. The first of these encounters unfolded not on a film set, but within the tightly wound ecosystem of network television during Denzel's turn as director on Grey's Anatomy. The actor at the center of that clash was Ellen Pompeo, a performer deeply identified with the show's long-running identity and its established rhythms. For Denzel, stepping behind the camera was not a vanity exercise. It was an extension of the same rigor he brought to acting. Direction, in his view, is stewardship guarding tone, pace, and emotional truth with consistency. The tension arose during an intense scene, when Pompeo improvised a line and attempted to redirect a fellow actor mid-take. In many television environments, improvisation is tolerated, even encouraged. But Denzel's philosophy, shaped by decades of theater discipline, treats improvisation without alignment as a fracture in authority. He stopped the moment, asserted his role as director, and insisted on order. Pompeo, defending the culture of a show she had anchored for years, pushed back sharply. What followed was a verbal confrontation that reverberated far beyond the set. What matters most is not the language exchanged, but how Denzel processed it. There was no retaliation, no press tour, no score to settle. Later, when asked, he claimed to have no recollection of the argument at all. The slight smile that accompanied that response said more than words could. For Denzel, memory itself is a choice. When a collaborator disrupts the sanctity of the workspace, he doesn't escalate, he erases. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. This moment crystallized what many close to him have long understood. Denzel draws hard lines around creative authority. He believes that sets function best when roles are respected and hierarchy is clear, especially during emotionally charged work. To blur those lines, in his view, is to invite chaos. Pompeo later criticized his approach as out of step with television culture. Denzel never answered back. Silence, once again, was his verdict. The impact of this encounter lingered quietly. It reaffirmed his belief that leadership demands firmness, even when it costs personal warmth. For viewers who have spent a lifetime navigating workplaces where authority and ownership collide, the lesson is familiar. Denzel Washington did not leave that set angry. He left confirmed in a truth he has lived by for decades. The work must come first, and not everyone is willing to honor that price. The second actor who tested Denzel Washington's principles did so not through temperament or ego, but through ideology and authorship. That figure was Quentin Tarantino, whose involvement in Crimson Tide created one of the most intellectually charged conflicts of Washington's career. Unlike many on-set disputes, this clash was not about performance, it was about language, responsibility, and the moral weight of storytelling. During production, Tarantino was brought in for uncredited script rewrites. His dialogue carried his unmistakable signature: provocative, confrontational, and deliberately abrasive. When Washington reviewed the changes, he was deeply unsettled. The revised script introduced repeated racial slurs and a racially charged monologue that had not existed in the original version. To Tarantino, this was texture, a reflection of reality sharpened for impact. To Denzel, it was something else entirely: careless provocation masquerading as authenticity. Washington's objection was immediate and unambiguous. He confronted Tarantino openly on set, expressing anger not just as an actor, but as a custodian of cultural meaning. For Denzel, words spoken on screen echo far beyond the theater. They shape perception. They reinforce or resist narratives. His fury stemmed from the belief that the dialogue crossed a line from realism into exploitation, especially when placed in the mouth of a black character without necessity or context. This was not a clash of personalities, it was a collision of philosophies. Tarantino believes cinema should provoke discomfort at any cost. Denzel believes discomfort must serve truth, not spectacle. Their disagreement became public, and the resulting tension hardened into a feud that lasted more than a decade. They did not collaborate again. They did not reconcile quietly. Instead, both men moved forward, carrying their convictions intact. Years later, something unexpected shifted the dynamic. When Washington's daughter, Katya, worked with Tarantino on Django Unchained, Denzel made a deliberate choice. He sought Tarantino out not to reopen old wounds, but to close them. He apologized for confronting him publicly years earlier, acknowledging that while his objections stood, the manner of confrontation could have been handled differently. The gesture was not submission. It was resolution. That moment reveals something essential about Denzel Washington. He does not confuse principle with pride. He will stand firm when necessary, but he does not cling to conflict for its own sake. The feud with Tarantino reinforced a belief he has carried throughout his career. Creative freedom must answer to ethical responsibility. Art does not exist in a vacuum, and neither do the people who create it. For viewers who lived through eras when words carried lasting weight, this story resonates deeply. Denzel Washington did not reject Tarantino's talent. He rejected the idea that brilliance excuses recklessness. In doing so, he clarified the line he has always drawn between noise and meaning, provocation and purpose. The third actor who tested Denzel Washington's discipline did so in a moment so brief that it almost disappeared as quickly as it arrived, but the principle behind it stayed. That actor was Josh Brolin during the making of American Gangster. The incident has since been described by Brolin himself, not as a feud, but as a sudden confrontation that revealed how seriously Washington guards his professional boundaries. During a rehearsal, Brolin placed a hand on Washington's shoulder while asking a question about a line. The gesture was casual, even friendly, but Washington reacted instantly, knocking the hand away and issuing a firm warning never to touch him again. To an outside observer, the reaction may have seemed excessive. To Denzel, it was instinctive. He was not Denzel Washington in that moment, he was Frank Lucas. Physical contact, however innocent, broke the psychological perimeter he maintained to remain grounded in character. What followed was not escalation, but clarity. There was no shouting, no retaliation, no lingering hostility. The message had been delivered, and Washington moved on. Brolin later reflected that it felt like they were on the verge of a fight, but quickly realized it was about boundaries, not anger. For Denzel, discipline is not negotiable in the moment of work. Emotional and physical space are tools, and anyone entering that space must respect them. The impact of this encounter reinforced a truth Washington has lived by since his theater days. Acting is not casual intimacy. It is controlled vulnerability. To protect that vulnerability, strict lines must exist. The incident became another quiet confirmation that his process, while demanding, was essential to the performances he delivered. The fourth figure, Jared Leto, challenged Denzel in a completely different way through excess rather than intrusion. Their collaboration on The Little Things placed Washington alongside an actor famous for immersive method techniques. Leto's approach involved staying in character as a serial killer even when cameras were not rolling, extending performance into the shared space of cast and crew. To Denzel, this behavior represented a fundamental misunderstanding of the craft. He has repeatedly stated that acting happens between action and cut. Everything outside that window should return to professionalism. Leto's method blurred that boundary, turning preparation into performance. Washington viewed it not as dedication, but as ego disguised as commitment. What bothered him most was the disruption. A film set is a collective organism. When one actor's process dominates the atmosphere, the balance shifts. For Washington, seriousness does not need an audience. Discipline should be invisible. He did not criticize Leto publicly, nor did he interfere directly. Instead, he withdrew, maintaining distance and focus. The encounter sharpened Washington's resistance to what he sees as performative intensity. He believes truth emerges from listening, timing, and restraint, not from spectacle. Leto's approach became, in Denzel's mind, a symbol of modern acting culture's drift toward noise over substance. Both encounters, one physical, One atmospheric taught the same lesson. Boundaries protect the work. Whether crossed by touch or overwhelmed by excess, the result is the same: distraction. For Denzel Washington, guarding the space of creation is not arrogance. It is responsibility. The fifth actor who tested Denzel Washington's principles did so not through confrontation, but through a sustained struggle for control. That actor was Russell Crowe, Washington's co-star on American Gangster. On the surface, the pairing seemed ideal. Two powerful performers, both respected for intensity, both capable of anchoring a film with gravity. But beneath that surface, the collaboration revealed a fundamental difference in how each man understood authority within a story. Crowe was deeply invested in shaping his character's arc, often advocating for adjustments to framing, emphasis, and narrative balance. He approached the film not just as a performer, but as a steward of the final product. Denzel, however, viewed such involvement as a quiet overreach. In his philosophy, once roles are defined, each contributor must stay within their lane. Actors serve the story. Directors shape it. Editors refine it. When those lines blur, the work begins to fracture. The tension never erupted into open conflict. There were no raised voices, no dramatic exits. Instead, what emerged was a professional chill, a cooling of collaboration once filming concluded. Washington respected Crowe's talent and commitment, but resisted what he perceived as a struggle for narrative dominance. For Denzel, leadership on set must be singular and coherent. Too many hands on the wheel dilute the journey. This experience reinforced a belief he has carried for decades. Collaboration does not mean competition. True partnership requires trust in structure. When that trust erodes, even mutual respect cannot fully restore harmony. The lesson lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling, reminding Washington that strength sometimes means standing firm without confrontation. The sixth and final actor in this reflection is Ethan Hawke, whose early experience with Washington during training day was defined by pressure and intensity. Hawke has spoken openly about feeling destabilized during auditions when Washington deliberately went off-book, abandoning the script to test Hawke's ability to react in real time. For Hawke, it felt like sabotage, a deliberate attempt to throw him off balance. For Washington, it was something else entirely. He was not testing lines, he was testing presence. He wanted to know whether Hawke could remain grounded when certainty disappeared. Acting, in Denzel's view, is not about memorization. It is about responsiveness, awareness, and emotional availability under stress. The discomfort Hawke felt was not accidental, it was diagnostic. Their working relationship remained tense but productive. There was never ease between them, but there was honesty. The friction created a rawness that translated directly to the screen, producing performances that felt dangerous and alive. Washington did not soften his approach. He believed that if an actor could withstand that pressure, the work would reward it. The impact of this collaboration confirmed a core truth for Denzel. Seriousness reveals itself under strain. Comfort is not a measure of compatibility. Endurance is. Hawke survived the test, and the result became one of the most acclaimed films of Washington's career. Taken together, these final two encounters complete the pattern that runs through all six. Denzel Washington was never cataloging enemies. He was identifying moments where discipline was challenged by control, by pressure, by ego, or by excess. Each experience sharpened his standards and clarified his boundaries. At 71, when Denzel reflects on those who tested him most, he is not settling scores. He is tracing the outline of the man he chose to remain.